Have you ever wanted to look like a hacker in Windows Terminal? Let's mash on that.
Hi everybody and welcome to another episode of the Asp.Net Monsters. In today's episode, we are going to be chatting with a special guest star, Kayla Cinnamon, who is here from the Windows Terminal team to tell us all about, Windows Terminal.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, you bet. Why don't you just start by giving us just a little bit of background about your role as PM and on the team at large?
Yeah, sure. So I joined the Windows Terminal team back in February of last year. And at the time, we didn't have any user interface at all. It was just kind of how do we get the plumbing together to get things to show up in the same window. So that was kind of my initial task, was designing what it would look like and work with designers. And then from there, I kind of started slowly taking it over and then became the full-time PM in October. So I make a lot of the design decisions as well as feature decisions and things like that, and the direction of the product. So that's kind of my role on Windows Terminal.
Hang on, this is just a black box with letters in it. What sort of design is it here? Are you trying to trick us?
I know. That's what I said. So there's a little more to it the tabs is basically the biggest thing. And at the time, the XAML controls library didn't have a tab control at all. So we worked with the WinUI team to make the tab view specifically for terminal, but now you can use it in any other application. So designing that and making it look like other Microsoft products like Edge and trying to make sure that it looks like one Microsoft was kind of the biggest part of that. And then working with them to get the dropdown to look right and things like that. So there's more than just the box, but only a little bit more.
There's a lot of actually really cool visual features in it as well. I'm not actually one who would I'm not into the backgrounds and transparencies and stuff like that or whatever. That's cool, but I know there's some people who are that's what they want in a terminal. They want that hyper customizable, this is exactly how I want it to look because that's how I get my groove on kind of look. So what kinds of features were you guys most which were the ones, other than getting the black box displaying, what were the features that you really wanted to make sure they really shone when users started to light them up?
We initially were focusing on just making sure that applications could run side by side, and then making sure our font rendering was really quick and could also support Unicode characters. So other languages aside from English would be able to be displayed in the terminal. And then the background image thing was actually from a community member. We were planning on doing that eventually, but someone came in and they wrote all the code for it, and then we just tossed it in because it looked awesome. And that's one of our favorites for sure. There's another one that's the retro terminal effect, which has scan lines. Also did not plan for that, but the code was too good from a community member that we had to throw it in. And it's been there for months because we're like, oh, maybe we'll take it out. And it's been such a favorite. So we've just left it. So those are some highlights.
It's one thing to drop to a terminal and start dropping code in there, but when it looks like a CRT screen, you just feel so much smarter, right? That's totally awesome.
I'm so enthused that Microsoft has a sense of humor now about these things and is allowing this sort of stuff in there. The Microsoft of 10 years ago would never have allowed jokes like that.
Yeah, I agree. And I think being open source helps provide a lot of creativity too, because all the cool stuff is from community members. We just make it work. But I think community members make the cool features. So I like the collaboration between us and everyone else.
I was looking at the repo here, and it says 250 contributors to the project. Wow. That is amazing.
Mm-hmm.
I was actually going to ask about that too. We've had some exposure. I think we've all done pull requests on .NET at one point or another. And obviously there's a process in, following all the rules and making sure things work well together. What's been your experience on the open source side of things and working with the community?
It's been pretty great, I would say. What I like about our team is that our entire code base is in GitHub, and we treat our team members as if they were community members, and the same way community members are treated as if they were team members. So everyone goes through the same review process. Everyone's treated the same way. So to me, of 250 people, sort of, there's just more people who provide more things like the team. So it's been nice to keep people to the same standards that we hold ourselves to. So no one feels like, oh, well, you're just saying that because I don't work for Microsoft. It's like, no, that we all do the same thing, and all of our issues and code is all out in the open, which is great too.
Right on. Okay, well, I guess we've been talking about this. I should probably share my screen and we can have a look at what we're actually talking about here. So there we go. As described, there's the black box. So I've got the video tucked away there. Does that look okay there, Dave?
Yeah, that's good.
Awesome. Okay, so first of all, I mean, one of the first things I love about it, just as you would expect with a lot of the modern windowing stuff, just control scroll lets us zoom in and out. And yeah, so here we got the basic structure and everything. One of the first things that I did obviously is hit this drop down and started to look at the shells that were in here. You guys are detecting what shells are already installed in the system, right?
Yeah, we will detect PowerShell-core installations as well as any Windows subsystem for Linux installation, but I don't think we go beyond that with like Python or something like that. Those would have to be added manually.
Okay, awesome. And those are just done through settings, right? I'm going to pull that up right now, actually.
Mm-hmm.
Cool. So one of the things that I noticed is I actually didn't have PS Core installed. I was real slow running PowerShell 5 for just whatever reason. This is old hardware, but when I got things going, I did not have PowerShell Core in here, and it had detected that PowerShell was the it made that the default, and which is fine because obviously I didn't have PowerShell Core. But I installed PowerShell Core, it automatically showed up, and then the profile was here, and all I had to do was take this GUID and move it up into the default profile in order to light that up.
Yep.
Awesome. Now there's a few things we can, and that's the default profile. So whenever I create a new one, it's going to pull up that PS Core, but then I can pull up, for example, Cloud Shell or whatever, and it's going to do the authentication bits and all of those things. So tabs break down for us I guess like highlighting, like if you're coming from, I used to be a big Con Emu user, and switching to Windows Terminal was actually like super easy, and I think you guys got some wins in terms of how easy the config is on it and everything. It just kind of fell into place. What kinds of things had to come together in order to get like you said, you guys obviously had to build out that whole new control. What were the other challenges in making all of this stuff come together?
I think there was some challenges with security and things and making sure that we could use this application like as admin. That's one that we're currently working on, because right now you cannot have an elevated tab next to a non-elevated tab. The entire launch of Terminal has to be run as admin in order to get administrative privileges with your shells. So that's one thing that we're currently working on. So security's been like an interesting thing because obviously the command line, you could do pretty much anything to a computer with that. And I remember when we first shipped, you weren't able to drag the terminal around. It would launch in its position and you couldn't click and drag it. That was it. So having all of the layers, we're using XAML islands, but making sure that the layers align properly and that you can click where you're supposed to, and having those things fit together was another challenge we had. Now you can drag it around, but I always remember like, man, we launched a product and you couldn't even like move it around on your screen. Like that was it. So we've improved since then, which is awesome.
I'm really excited that you're working on having elevated tabs, because that's one of the things that I really miss coming from Con EMU, is having the ability to have that sort of like mixed mode.
Yeah, that's definitely something we're actively working on, so that's good.
One of the things that I noticed, I'm going to put you on the spot here before we switch over and look at tabs, panes, which I think are a great feature. But inside of the tabs or the profiles, I guess, one of the things that I was interested in doing was possibly setting up a profile for PowerShell Core for personal, which might take me to a different starting directory than, for my clients, which might have a different root directory, so that I can kind of go into my even setting up for different clients if I've got different structures and things that I need, or if I need to use different shells. I noticed that, however, it only picks up the first instance of the source, and I was just wondering if there's something I was missing there, or if that's something that's not yet supported.
Yeah, so source is something that's automatically generated from terminal. And that's how it's using the dynamic profile generators. So if you have if you've like edited it yourself and copied source twice, the terminal will only respect the first one in your dropdown from like list order. So to fix that, instead of using source, you can use command line, similar how like CMD has it, and then use pwsh.exe will get you PowerShell-core, and then they should both show up. So source isn't really meant for other people to start messing with. It's supposed to be automatically generated, but we have it there so you know where this profile came from. But it's not, you're not going to get good results if you try to duplicate it, as you could see. So
that actually makes a lot of sense. User error. Perfect. and away we go. We're moving on, and that solves my problem perfectly. So I would, okay, awesome. So then I guess, looking at panes here. So now I haven't used panes before. So is that a new thing, or did you guys have inspiration from that somewhere else, or?
That was always on our list of things that we wanted to have. And we put the panes in like last July or June. Because one of our devs got really excited and just wrote the code for it, and here it is. So it was really a priority 2 item, but we just got a little too overexcited about panes. So that's kind of where those came in, and now we're working on polishing it and getting like better, like splitting animations and things like that, and being able to rearrange them is another feature request. So it's basic panes are here, but we're still working on making them a little bit better.
Yeah, I actually really love it. This is actually the scenario that I use a fair bit, where I've got source control on one side and I've got my watch running on the other side. So it just helps me give that, like when I can see progress or whatever, but still keep making changes to what branch I'm on and things like that. So that's a really handy thing. And then there's some keyboard shortcuts in here for moving things around, and I can create new branches and resize all of these. So there's some cool stuff going on. We'll have in the show notes, we'll have a link to the page with all of the keyboard shortcuts and everything, but it's pretty easy to move around between tabs and resize not tabs, panes, to resize between them and kind of move about. What other notable things should we be sharing with people who are watching the program?
Well, creating new panes was a little bit tricky. It's kind of hidden because it's not really well described, but if you open your dropdown and hold Alt, you can split a new pane of any of your profiles listed there. And that will do an automatic split, so it's trying to get you the most squared pane that you can. Right. So that's a new one. Also, holding Alt and clicking Settings will get you the default settings that Terminal ships with, which could be useful to reference of like how I do these key bindings, or why is this thing set this way? You can see how it's set and then fix it. So those are some hidden things that aren't really well advertised that I'm trying to like let people know about.
Right.
So.
Oh, this is great, because this is like, we're not even going to put it in the show notes anymore. Just look at the default setting file. Like that's all the shortcuts right there. Mm-hmm. Awesome.
Also, command palette is a really cool thing we just added last month. The month before. If you do Control-Shift-P, you should get the command palette, and that will display all of your key bindings that are already set. This. And then if you make any new key bindings, they will also appear in this list as well. So you can make like a ton of different commands, and then they'll show up here. Or if you don't know how to split a pane, you can do it this way as well.
Right. Awesome. Well, this
is super cool, and it's the same keystroke or the same binding as Visual Studio Code for bringing up the control pane. So I don't have to learn a new thing. Love it.
Awesome. Okay. Very cool. So one more thing before we let you go then here. Let's have a look at getting this into, like I'm Neo. I've been cast for the lead part in a major film. I don't think this looks cool enough. What steps do I need to take to get this rolling here?
So if you want to enable the retro terminal effect, you'll have to add a new setting into your profile, whichever one you'd like.
Sure.
I think you can do it from the command palette too, if you just want it to be translated.
Yes, you're right. You're right. There is a key binding for that. So it should be under experimental retro terminal effect. Yeah.
There we go.
That is really cool.
Right on. Nice.
I don't know that it necessarily improves usability, but
Yeah.
No, but it's like it's making me look a lot better, right? That's the thing.
it is.
Those scan lines, they just, awesome. Okay, awesome. Well, Kayla, this has been a lot of fun. Thank you so much for jumping on here today. And we're gonna keep track of things, and we'll send some updates. We'll make sure we get post out there with all of the shortcuts. I did actually have one other thing really quickly here. If anybody's interested, like it. As you would expect, because it's just your shell, so it's like whatever you've got installed. I threw these things together really quickly. I upgraded myself to PowerShell-core, installed the CLI from GitHub, threw poshgit in there, and then installed Microsoft Windows Terminal. Now, I know this is not the preferred way. I think you guys would prefer if people install it through Windows Store. But this had me online basically on my new PC at home in about 7 minutes, and it was fully running and it had all of the things. So we'll put this in the show notes as well for anybody who wants to join. But yeah, Kayla, we really appreciate you taking a few moments of your time to join us and walk us through some of these features.
Awesome. Yeah, thanks for having me on your show.
All right, everybody. Well, remember to like, comment, and share, and we'll see everybody in next week's episode. Bye.
Cheers.